everyone, it's Nina, and today we are going to be taking a look at the last few books I bought in 2024. As I've mentioned before in my goals video, which I'll try and link up above, I am going on a limited book budget for 2025. I just really want to save more money overall, and I'm trying to be better about how much stuff I own. If you watched my bookshelf tour video, you probably saw just how chaotic and fully stuffed my bookshelves are. So I'm definitely overflowing with how many books I have in particular. At the same time, I really want to build up a collection of books that I really want to read, as well as just have things in them that really align with what I like in books, and thus hopefully will have a lot of longevity in being on my shelves as books I want to share and recommend and reread in the future. So with that in mind, I did buy some books at the end of 2024. As I mentioned in another video, I got a lot of Barnes & Noble gift cards as part of my birthday in November, and I did a in-store trip to pick up a couple of them, and since then have done another online order with Barnes & Noble. I also have some thrift finds in here, as well as little free library finds and Christmas gifts that I'm excited to talk about as well. But long story short, this is probably going to be one of the last book hauls on my channel, at least for a while. Maybe halfway through the year or close to the end of the year, I will assess all of the books I have gotten with my budget. But for right now, this is the last book haul that's going to be on my channel. So with that long intro out of the way, let's get right into the video. I have my books divided roughly in the adult books I have and then the young adult books I've gotten. So I think we'll just go through those two piles. The first ones I wanted to show are the last two special editions I got from Illumicrate. The first one of those is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. This special edition is really, really beautiful. The end paper artwork with the monsters on it is so nice. And honestly, I think my favorite part is the naked hardcover, which has the US cover on it. I believe this was the Illumicrate pick for September, and it is a adult FF dark academia romance. I've heard actually a lot of good things about this book, and it has been pretty hyped up from a lot of different people. I think some people do have a couple issues with Allison Saft's writing style. I've never read anything from her, so this will be my first attempt at seeing if I jive with her writing style overall, because at least in terms of vibes and setup alone, this does seem like something I would really like. The other special edition I have is Until We Shatter by Kate Dillon, and this is Illumicrate's pick, I think from October, and this is also the last book I got with my Illumicrate subscription. This one is really, really cool. I really like the purple and green color scheme they went for, and I also really, really like the illustration style for the end papers. I don't know if they've worked with this artist in the past. It looks pretty different from a lot of the other end paper art that they've done, but I really do like the art style. I hope they work with this artist more in the future. And the naked hardcover is also really beautiful. This is a adult fantasy romance where the magic system is based on different colors, and I'm pretty sure it's kind of got a Six of Crows heist-based situation going on with a ragtag group of different people coming together. I did tentatively start this book just to see if I was jiving with the writing style, and I think it was pretty interesting so far. I think I only probably read the first 20-ish pages, but it was enough of a taste for me to decide that I do want to keep this, at least until I read through the rest of it and decide if I want to have it on my shelves for the long term. Okay, the next set of books are all queer historical romances. The first one I have is The Duke's Sister and I by Emma Claire Sunday. I believe I showed this in my Slice of Life vlog, which is where I went book shopping in Barnes & Noble and found this book. I had seen this book, I think, available through my library, and I was pretty intrigued by it. And then when I found this particular copy that is actually signed by the author that was available in the Barnes & Noble, I decided to pick it up. Obviously, the title of The Duke's Sister and I is a play on The Duke and I, which is the first Bridgerton novel. However, I don't know if the plot of this necessarily mirrors the plot of Bridgerton at all. Anyway, I'm pretty much always down for a queer historical romance, so I'm really glad I picked this one up. Okay, the next two books are ones I have already read, but I decided I wanted to get physical copies of them because I definitely can see myself rereading them in the future. And those are the two books that I really liked in the Turner series by Cat Sebastian. So we have The Lawrence Brown Affair. I gave this book 5 stars. It was one of my favorite books I read in 2024. And then we also have The Ruin of a Rake. These are books 2 and 3 in the Turner series. And I read them out of order. I actually read the third one first, then the second one, then the first one, and then read the 3.5 novella at the end. And I honestly found it was kind of fun actually to read them out of order. Anyway, I really like both of these books. They're both historical romances set around 1815-ish. I feel like also the covers of these books have grown on me quite a bit. Just in general, I feel like I'm becoming more and more affectionate for the like clinch cover genre, especially compared to how ugly a lot of like cartoon covers are for romances nowadays. This one I actually feel like is so perfect as like a bodice ripper cover. And the only problem I have with this one is the fact that I do not imagine Lawrence and Georgie looking like this. But otherwise, I think the covers are pretty funny. Okay, the other book I actually got in the same Barnes & Noble order is another queer romance that I've been really meaning to read. And this is a queer fantasy romance, and that is The Fox and the Dryad by Kellen Graves. I previously read a different Kellen Graves book, which I think is the start of like a trilogy or like a longer series that they're writing. And I didn't really like that one. I thought the writing style was fine, but I just didn't really like the main couple. However, I have really wanted to give them another shot. And this is another like fae-based fantasy romance that is set in the same universe but is a standalone with different characters. And I also just like can't get over the fact that these covers are so beautiful. I don't specifically remember the artist's name, but I do believe they are the author Kellen Graves' partner. Like, just look at how incredibly beautiful the illustration is. This book, I believe, is also indie published, but I was able to buy a physical copy through Barnes & Noble. And I'm just super excited to eventually check this one out. Okay, the last book I got from Barnes & Noble is one I believe I showed in my 25 books I want to read in 2025 video. And that is the first volume of Heaven Official's Blessing by Mo Xiang-Tongxue, or MXTX. This is the new special edition hardcovers they've been coming out with, since originally the entire series was released just in like the paperback format that Seven Seas does for all of their Danmei. But for some reason they're doing special editions of this series in particular, and I'm not complaining because this book is so beautiful. I honestly feel like it's one of the most beautiful special editions in my collection. Let's start off by taking a look at this cover design. The sprayed edges, which my camera does not want to focus on. The beautiful art for the end papers, as well as the gold foiling on the hardback. Do I know really anything about this series? The answer is no. Actually, that's not entirely true. I don't know what the plot is. However, I have seen a lot of fan art of like the main couple of the series. I don't remember what the main guy's name is, but I'm pretty sure his love interest's name is Hua Cheng, and he's got an eye patch, and I'm pretty sure he's like very unhinged. I feel like that's one of the things I've heard about him. He might be like a demon, and I think his love interest is like a fallen celestial, not necessarily like an angel, but like another being from heaven. Anyway, excited to finally eventually check this one out. This is the last of MXTX's series that I have yet to read. It's her most recent one, and a lot of people say it's actually her best. So I'm very excited to eventually check this one out. Okay, the last book I have in my adult category is actually one I found from a little free library, and I'm very excited because this is a book I've wanted to check out for a while, and that is Memorial by Bryan Washington. This is a contemporary, like, general fiction book about this gay couple who, one of them is Japanese American, the other one is black, and the Japanese American, his mother flies from Japan to basically tell him that his father is dying. So the one guy goes back to like kind of pay his respects and say a final goodbye to his father. And then the other boyfriend and the mom have to become kind of like unlikely roommates and end up bonding while the other guy is away. I've heard really good things about this one. I feel like the premise sounds very like sweet and heartfelt. And pretty much the only way you can make me read any type of like contemporary fiction, unless it's from an author I really, really love, is to make it about a gay couple. So very excited to eventually check this one out. Okay, now let's move into the last 3 books I have, which are all my young adult books. The first one is a book that I specifically went in my Slice of Life vlog to Barnes & Noble to try and find, and that is Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin. This is the sequel to Serpent and Dove, which was another one of my favorite books I read in 2024. This is the second book out of the trilogy, and it's also one of the other books I have on my 25 books to read in 2025. The storyline overall is that these are a YA Witch X Witch Hunter fantasy romance series. However, by this like second book, the like Witch X Witch Hunter element and like the enemies to lovers of it all has a little bit faded as the main couple is now together. But there's still a lot of like other stuff going on, and I think we're also going to focus a little bit more on the backstory of the main female character's best friend, who is also a witch, but from like a different coven than her. Overall, I'm just really excited to check this one out. I had so much fun reading the first book in the series, so I have very high hopes that I will really like this one. Okay, next book I have is another thrift find that I'm so happy I got, and that is The Sun and the Star by Rick Riordan and Mark Oshiro. This is a novel specifically focused around Nico D'Angelo, who is one of the side characters from the first Percy Jackson series. I believe this book is set in between the Heroes of Olympus series and the Trials of Apollo series, and you pretty much cannot read it out of order because there is a pretty big spoiler mentioned from Heroes of Olympus in this book. I'm super excited when I eventually read and finish the Heroes of Olympus series to pick this one up. I feel like I feel such a kinship with Nico, although I'm pretty sure like every queer millennial has some sort of like kinship with Nico D'Angelo, considering he was one of the like very first children's media characters to like come out and be a like openly queer character. But yes, he is my baby, and I'm very excited to eventually read his book. Okay, so the last book I have for this haul is one I got as a Christmas gift from my friend Elaine, specifically as something I told her that I wanted, and that is this hardback edition of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is obviously Snow's backstory prequel book, Hunger Games book number 0. I read this book in, I think, June of 2024, and I really loved it and gave it 5 stars. And I knew I wanted the hardcover one to match my box set of the Hunger Games books, and I'm so glad that I have it. I feel like I should do like some type of decoration and maybe like faux sprayed edges or stencil edges on this one, just to make it a little bit more fancy, because I know I'm going to want to keep this in the long run. It's really, really good. If you've read the original Hunger Games trilogy and you've been sleeping on this book, I highly recommend it. I first watched the movie adaptation and loved that, and I think the book is just as good. Honestly, Snow is even more of a bitch in the original book compared to him in the movie, if that's even possible. But yes, very, very happy to have this in my collection. And with that, those are all the books I have for this last book haul. If you guys enjoyed this video, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing if you aren't already. Consider following me on the Storygraph if you'd like to see my reading updates in real time, or following me on my Bookstagram, which is linked in the description. But that is going to be it for me today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!